Yes, hello and welcome everyone to a new episode of House on Relate Radio. I've been counting and this is like the 18th show already. Yeah, and I'm really happy because I have a guest today who was gonna come in December, but that didn't go on anymore, but we managed to plan a date still. So Lyrae is today my guest.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Groningen.
Thank you.
How was the travel to Groningen?
It was good until I couldn't find platform 1A. Then I got sent to the buses, and then in the end I found a train which waited for me, which was really nice. So yeah, overall it was okay.
Okay. You are based in Utrecht, and can you maybe tell a little bit about yourself? You're a DJ.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about myself. I started, I think I started practicing with DJing somewhere in the summer of 2022. I then kind of developed into the sound that I really like of this day. Which is more like progressive house. And then I feel like the concept of progressive house is really broad. And so the aspect that I really like about progressive house is, well, actually the whole thing of progressive house is that starting from the beginning of the song until the end, progressively a new element enters the song. So you kind of have to be patient, and then there's more and more and more and more. So it's really like a build-up, which is also something that I really like about playing. It's really, I kind of want to take my time and challenge my listeners to be a bit patient, so I can build up to something a bit more energetic. And also what I really like about progressive house is that you can easily go into a more fun side of music, more cheerful, but also you can really go a bit more deeper. My boyfriend actually, he always explains progressive house, the way I play it to my friends, as spooky house. So it's really, I really like the more mysterious kinds of sounds to it as well. Yeah.
I feel like house is like every time about a side of house music. And well, I listened to a couple of your sets, and I really like that your sound is a bit like dreamy and also a bit like hypnotic and, as you said, spooky. And yeah, I think that's I really like your sound. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that sound, like the dreamy, spooky, progressive house sound. And after that, you're going to play a set.
Yeah.
So I first wanted to ask you if you could maybe share like a really dreamy, hypnotic track.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want a bit of background information?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be playing, or I'm gonna be showing or hearing the song Should I Get a Dog by Robert Dietz, which was released on Nou is Klaar. I think it was, I wrote it down, yeah, it was somewhere in the winter of 2023. And the first time I heard this song was during a set by Honey at Dekmantel Selectors, which was in the summer of 2023. Maybe most people know Honey is also known for more disco sets or disco-related sets. But this was a closing set at the Selector stage, or at the Voodoo stage, I mean. And so it was more leaning towards techno even. So it was a lot darker, which really surprised me a lot. And then he also played this song, which I thought was really cool. And I was not able to find anywhere because apparently it wasn't released. And then that winter I went to Clone Records in Rotterdam, and I was looking at one of the new releases by Nou is Klaar. And all of a sudden I found the song. And I didn't know it was by Robert Dietz, but it's by Robert Dietz, who is going to be releasing, in my opinion, one of the sickest EPs this summer at Kalahari Oyster Cult. So it's been announced yet, but this is an EP that I've been waiting for 2 years already. So that's what I kind of wanted to showcase.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm really curious right now. So let's play it.
Here we go.
really nice track. Really liked it. I just said like I can really hear this being played at a festival, and that it would be like this amazing vibe, and a really dreamy track also. I also picked a dreamy hypnotic track, in my opinion, and it's a track by Peach, and it's called Gerald's Game. I'm just gonna play it. Yes, that was another dreamy track.
Very nice.
Thank you. I wanted to talk also a little bit about your radio show, because you have a radio show on Birdcage Radio in Utrecht, which is called Connected Elements.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your show?
Yeah, of course. So actually, Birdcage Radio is the very first radio station where I ever played for an audience that weren't my friends. And this was February last year, and I was able to do a set there because I was taking a DJ course at Echo. So cool. Shout out to them. And then they gave us the opportunity to showcase everything that we learned during the whole DJ course in like 1 hour. And I was so terrified. Because there's also people watching online and all that kind of stuff. And I was also really nervous because I didn't know whether people would like the sound that I would be playing, because I thought it was nice, but I don't know if other people agree.
Because this is the sound that you also started with DJing when you had the DJ course. A little bit.
Yeah. So this is the sound I developed more into, but I think that this sound has always kind of been what I really liked when I play. So that went quite well, and the radio station was very enthusiastic about what I did. So they asked me if I wanted to become a resident there and start my own show, which I thought was insane. Then of course you kind of have to think about, okay, what kind of show, like how do I call it, and what is the thing that I want to share. So then I decided, or I was thinking about, okay, what does music mean to me? So for me, it's about, when I listen to music, I kind of always go within. I don't know if that's an English word, but or an English sentence, but I kind of I'm very often you would find me dancing alone on the dance floor. Even when I'm with my friends, I'm really focused on the music and how it makes me feel. So in that way, I would be connected with the music, but also, you know, every song has its own elements that connect together and then together make the song. So that is kind of why I thought Connected Elements would be a nice name to it. And next to that, I am a very emotional person, which is its upsides and its downsides. But I kind of want to express that with my sets as well. So when you're hearing my sets, I hope that people can start feeling hopefully good things, can also be sad emotions, but then I always try to end it on a collective note. So you were here for maybe an hour, maybe two, and then I'm trying to give you a song that you can feel connected with people around you again. So very long explanation, but that was that's the whole idea behind Connected Elements.
And is that also how you kind of prepare for maybe a gig or your radio show, that you try to look to make the set like a connected thing? I not really. I think I just now automatically lean more towards the songs that are a bit more deep and also have some breaks. So it's not that when I prepare for my sets that I take this in or how do you say, in consideration. So the way that I kind of prepare for sets is that I would love to take a day off usually. So I just have like a whole day that I can just focus on music and feel my emotions and my inspiration, and then I kind of have a sense of, okay, what do I want to do with the set? And then I also look at who is going to be playing after me, like what kind of stage is this, because I can play all my the more deeper house songs that I think are really cool, but then
if it doesn't fit with the party or the audience, then I should just save it for another time. So this is something I try to incorporate a bit. I just make a playlist and I rank all the songs. I have like labels for them in terms of vibes or moods. So I rank them in the playlist from mood to mood, like mood 1, mood 2, mood 3, kind of have that build up.
Yeah, and like mood 1 would, for example, be like dreamy or spooky.
Yeah, exactly.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, we'll talk a little bit further later. I also ask you to bring a track of one of your favorite producers.
Yeah. So I brought a track, or I brought an EP that was made by Matthew Dexter. And I think he's a really cool producer because... So these songs are really more the spooky kind of songs. He's really able to build a lot of tension with his songs, which I think is really cool, and also has some really cool elements to it that you don't really hear that often in other songs. So, for example, the song that I'll be playing has like cowbells. And I think
Love
that's
the cowbells.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. And so yeah, he really builds up a lot of tension, but then there it is. The songs then in the end are not that much in your face, which I think is really cool. And next to that, I think he's also a really good DJ. He plays vinyl most of the time, I think all the time. So yeah, I think the moods that he's setting with his sets are really nice. And so the song that I'll be playing,
this artwork is amazing, by the way.
Yeah. So for those who are listening, you can see it, so please look it up. So it was released on Animals on Psychedelics. This is the label, and the EP is called Uplink, and I'll be playing Pro Nobis. So it's really spacey, but I think it's really cool.
Let's go spacey. Really nice. Really liked it with the cowbells. I also wanted to share a track from a producer that I really like. This is a track from Axel Boman. He is a producer from Sweden and he makes really nice house music with a lot of acid. I'm gonna play it. Yes, sorry, the mic was off. That was the track As It Left and Right by Axel Boman.
Really nice.
Thank you. I also wanted to talk a little bit about your work because you are a programmer at a club in Utrecht.
Yep.
At Kabul Agogo.
Yes.
Nice. And can you tell maybe a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's actually still quite fresh. I've been working here for, I think, 2 months now, so I'm still learning a lot. But yeah, I'm doing it together with Kato. He's my fellow programmer. And yeah, so I don't know if I should explain a bit to the audience about what Kabul Agogo is.
Yeah, maybe that's nice.
So Kabul Agogo is a club, a nightclub in Utrecht, but actually it's a lot more than just a nightclub. I think at the beginning of this year, Teatro, which is a cafe which was situated in the city center, moved into our building. It's also owned by Omar. Omar is also the owner of Kabul Agogo, so it was like 2 of his projects coming together. And so we also have now the cafe, which is throughout the week we offer a lot of different kinds of programs,
Nice.
Which are mostly queer oriented. So for example, in a few weeks we'll have queer comedy. We very often have talks or discussions about sex or sexuality. And during the weekends we often have it's called a dance cafe, which is freely accessible, so you don't have to pay anything. You can just come there, drink a beer, and dance to the music by the DJs. Yesterday we actually also had an EP release by Lila Poppy, which is she's a singer-songwriter, and she came there with her own band, which is a more pop indie oriented band. So the cafe offers a lot of different things more than just the nightclub. And I think it was the 14th of April we had our 1-year anniversary, which we celebrated by opening our new terrace, which also has a skate park, which is really nice. So there was a skate competition going on, and just people chilling on the terrace. And then now we also opened a new chill area next to our nightclub. So if you kind of want to step away from the music for a bit, but you don't want to go outside with everyone who is smoking, you can now go to like a small, really small cafe, which is more like a speakeasy, and you can just sit there and chill and talk with everyone. So because we're such a new nightclub, we're still in the middle of developing ourselves and improving and learning what fits best with Utrecht. But so far it's been a nice journey, and it's really nice to be part of it.
Cool. I really want to go there
you
soon. I'm in Utrecht. And how do you find it to combine the DJing with programming for a club?
So to be honest, the last 2 months were a little bit overwhelming. Getting used to working at a new
I can imagine.
company.
Yeah.
And also, finding time and your headspace to even focus on gigs. My main focus the last 2 months was actually adjusting to working at Kabul Agogo. And then last weekend I had 2 gigs, which I was a bit nervous for because I thought maybe I didn't have enough time to prepare. But in the end, that also kind of you learn a lot when you're visiting club nights and all that kind of stuff. So
Yes.
in the end, those gigs went. I'm happy with how they went. It's a bit a juggle, but I feel like I'm getting better at balancing it.
Yeah, I can imagine that you have to find a spot where it's like well balanced.
Yeah.
for both. Okay, so let's get back a little bit to your sound that you're playing.
Yeah.
Because you play kind of dreamy, spooky, but also kind of bleepy, I would say.
Yeah.
Really like that bleepy. And I ask you if you could maybe bring a little bit of a bleepy song for this show.
Yeah, so I brought a song which I'm not even sure if it's that bleepy. I think it's maybe more housey than bleepy, but it has its own kinds of bleep, so I thought it would still work.
A housey song is very welcome in this show. So, yeah.
So this song is produced by Robin Graham, and it's called "Not Here to Party." It was released on Pilot March this year, so it's quite fresh. And I brought it because I think this is the summer banger.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. So yeah, I'll play it.
Yes.
Stop myself from bouncing off the wall. I didn't come to party, didn't come to crawl. I came here to stop myself from bouncing off the wall.
Very nice track. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no worries.
Also a bit breaky and bleepy in the same time.
Yep.
Really liked it. Well, Emma, it feels really weird saying my name. We're both Emma. I want to thank you for sharing your music. And right now you're going to play a set. And I thought maybe you wanted to tell a little bit also about this set that you wanted to play.
Yeah. So actually, last weekend during King's Day, I played at a festival which is called Staatsgreep, which is by the organization of Drift. And I had the honors of being third on the lineup at Mesh, which is the club, for which I was really nervous. And in the end, it went really well, and I'm really happy with the set, but it didn't get recorded.
No!
And I was really bummed out the whole week. I was like, shit, it was actually really nice. And kind of felt like everything that came together that day. Luckily there's history on USB, so I'm gonna be playing the second hour of that set.
Because you told me also about this Staatsgreep festival that it was one of your favorite festivals to play, right?
Yeah. It was really nice because the stage itself, it was more oriented towards like the deeper house. So because of that, I was really able to showcase more of the deep house songs that I think are really cool, but a bit more difficult. So like not, more difficult in the sense that I wasn't sure if everyone was able to appreciate it, but people did, so that was really nice to see, and that really kind of ignited the spark of why I love DJing even more.
Cool. That really makes it. I can imagine that it really makes like a nice set to play.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, and have fun with your set.
Thank you.
on tape.
Ladies and gentlemen.
The party has just barely begun. The party has just barely begun. About 10, 20, 4:25 right now, late evening by most people standards, but in one corner of town, the party has just barely begun.
They're talking about the rave scene.
Welcome back. It is about... names, standing there, nothing shy. Playing games, sticking on fine exchange of names, standing there, nothing shy. When you know I'm the reason why you're playing games, sticking on fine exchange of names, standing there, nothing shy. When you know I'm the reason why you're playing games, sticking on fine exchange of names, standing there, nothing shy. When you know I'm the reason why you're
How do you say